I will start by recognizing the presence of the honorable members of parliament, the Honorable Mtoto Kafwaya of Lunte, Honorable Stephen Kampiong of Shuangandu, Honorable Kabasaka Mpampi of Mwansabongwe, Honorable Francis Kapianga of Mpika, and Honorable Emmanuel Msonda Mpankata of Ukosochi, Honorable Anthony Kasandwe of Bangweulu, and Honorable Munenga Kampamba of Kalulushi. We're expecting more members to come in. We want to speak to the nation concerning the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 7, which is scheduled to be tabled on the floor of the House on Monday, 15 December 2025. So, members of parliament have assembled to speak to the nation because they feel strongly about this particular amendment bill, given that the bill that is coming on the floor of the House is the same bill that was invalidated by the Constitution, by the Concord. It's the same bill that was declared to be now unvoid. We want to bring it to the attention of the nation that the process currently being carried out at Parliament is illegal, because the bill that is being discussed or interrogated is the same bill that was declared to be now unvoid. The process in constitution making is as important as the content. And this is the argument that will continue to advance, because that is the correct position. A constitution is a law that is written by the people themselves. Bill 7 was not written by the Zambian people, and we want every Zambian to be very clear about this. Bill 7 was not written by the Zambian people. Bill 7 was written by President Hakainde Hichilema with his friends. The Concord judgment invalidated Bill 7, or the process leading to Bill 7, because the Zambian people who should have written this particular law did not participate. The court condemned that particular process because it originated from the executive, which is not supposed to be the case. The Concord recommended that an independent body of experts should be the one to spearhead the process of consultation. As if to fool the Zambian people, the president went ahead and appointed a technical committee, knowing very well that the process of Bill 7 had already commenced in Parliament, and Bill 7 was already before Parliament. He did not even think about withdrawing that particular bill. So this technical committee and the process they were carrying out was an academic exercise. When they were watching Belesha, when they got to the end, they abandoned the report, abandoned the bill, and went back to the original Bill 7. Zambians must ask, what have we achieved? What have we done in compliance with what the court recommended? So what was expected was an initiation of a totally new process. Had President Hakainde Hichilema withdrawn that Bill 7 that was on the floor of the House, he would have initiated a totally new process, which process was now going to be spearheaded by a team of experts that is independent. The Zambian people themselves would have written the constitution. The team of experts was not to go with a list of clauses already drafted by government. No, no, no. The team of experts was to go to the Zambian people, speak to the Zambian people, get the views of the Zambian people about which clauses, in their view, needed amendments. So where we are dealing with a bill that was crafted by President Hakainde Hichilema with his friends. That is the reason why we have decided, on behalf of the Zambian people, as the representatives of the Zambian people, to say we will not vote for this particular bill. We will stay away from that illegal process. Otherwise, we risk being cited for contempt. Because President Hakainde Hichilema and his government have decided that they can disobey or disrespect a court judgment at will and with impunity. They've demonstrated the highest levels of arrogance by disrespecting a court judgment. So, what we have this afternoon, we have members of parliament, they will take turns to talk to first the process, and in any case, even the clauses contained in this illegal document called Bill 7, so that the Zambian people can see, now that the president and his team are arrogant and adamant and would like to bring this bill on the floor of the House, the members of parliament seated here and those that will come later would like to expose Bill 7 for what it is, so that even as it comes on the floor of the House, the Zambian people should know exactly what the UPND government would like to do. So without much ado, therefore, ukumitasha mwebantu bonse mwebale mufwa kuchilimba na pachitunshi inokutila umwaka tukwete muri kino cyalo natukwata omutungulushi bwaba Hakainde Hichilema abo bashindike urupapuro rwa cyalo ifunde lya cyalo bale salula ifunde lya cyalo kintu cyayishibikwa ukuti urupapuro rwa cyalo rukalamba urubalenti constitution rufwira okufuma ku bantu efira mu kisungu rutila we the people of Zambia nomba Bill 7 ifumineke kuri ba president refe musafyabo baikele fya kapukutu nokumfano kuti katuchitefinefi pakuti fika tupususheko mu 2026 ichina tumono kuti abekala chalo naba tubwelamo kanshi kuti atupusuke katulete po constitution tubike motu tumo utwinga tubombera no kutupususha bakwinga pusuka. So iyi constitution balete define kuri mwe bantu iyo constitution ifilo kufuma ku bantu nomba Bill 7 yakufuma ku bantu tapalila gumo baikana ko panshi elyo koti yalanda pa butatutu kutila kwena bane ifimule na Bill 7 Bill 7 mule nayo taikwete ifunde mukati iyo mwalika lokukana ipusha abantu mwaikelefi akapuku tunokumfwana nokutia katuchitefi mwalanda pama delimitation efi ashara tamuli kuchishinka iyo so kanshi mwebe na Zambia iyo Bill 7 ileza ku parliament chintu tubayipindi baleko kubomfya ngepusukilo bapusukile mu paktu efomu uteko iyo namba bufyanye fintu mpanga yonse kubulimi kubuyandanshi na fyonse iyo CDF walelanda nabesa muno kutaya bafwe iyo ekubutukila ukufufunkanya urupapuro rwa cyalo pakuti benga kusuka leo tacha bafwe iyo. So kanshi mkwai palikano kanshi tana laita honorable Kafwaya just to present his debate on Bill 7. Honorable Kafwaya.
Nachokera sana mwewa kalamba wakumpela kwa kashita akakuti naenena alanda poto tuli kumano. Now, I think it's important, by the way, let me adopt the protocol that you established, observing that if I do start going through, I may take a lot of time. I wanted to begin by saying, let me remind the countrymen and women that UPND are liars. UPND babufi. You know, we have to be clear that UPND is a group of liars. They lied that they were going to ensure that a 25 kg bag of mealie meal would cost 50 kwacha. Mealie meal is now more costly than it was, and it is 3 times more than what I promised. UPND are liars. They lied that a liter of petrol was going to cost 13 kwacha, what is the cost of a liter of petrol today, UPND liars. They lied that the cost of a 50 kg bag of fertilizer would be 250 kwacha when they come into power. What is the cost of fertilizer today? They can't even explain it now. In the National Assembly, you'll be told something else. The one who assures you that it has come down to 750 would go and apologize and begin to explain what 750 means. UPND are liars. UPND are liars. They lied that they were going to unite this nation. Today, as Zambia, as we stand in Zambia, this country is more divided than it has ever been divided at any point of our history. The country has become so divided that even the president now believes he's hated because of where he comes from. Now, that is the lowest. The person who should be the anchor of national unity believes that the Zambian people, excuse me, the Zambian people hate him because of where he comes from. That's really deplorable. But the president has forgotten that people hate the high cost of living. People don't hate where he comes from. They don't hate him. What they hate is the high cost of living. The president has forgotten to recognize that what people hate is the crippling load shedding. It is not about him and where he comes from. The president has forgotten that people hate corruption, where ministers would be investigated at the Anti-Corruption Commission and their identities hidden 4 years after they assumed office. This is what people hate, and not where the president comes from and who he is. You see, people hate the giving away of their minerals through the giving away of Mopani and several other entities. And we hear there are further negotiations to give away further mineral wealth. This is what people hate. People hate the poor governance that has been exhibited during the UPND government. In all the three arms of government, there's been gross poor governance. Now we are dealing with the paying carrier. For the first time, people are learning new words. Paying carrier due to poor governance. This is what people hate. You see, people hate the crippling of the freedom of worship. You cannot stop a gathering at the OIDC, which was properly mobilized by Apostle Sunday Sinyangwe, and think people are going to be happy. That is at the back of stopping a prayer meeting for the late president with a bishop in his private office in Kabwe. Before that, you stopped him from meeting pastors for a prayer meeting in Ndola. You also summoned a priest for delivering a homily. You don't end there. You do not end there. You jail a pastor in Kitwe for speaking for his people. You also cordon the Cathedral of the Child Jesus, preventing an archbishop from conducting prayers after you called him a Lucifer. These are the things that people hate. I want to recommend to the president to begin to see these things as the real problems in our country. Now, instead of solving these problems, where is the concentration of the UPND government? It's on this bill, Bill 7. It is called the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill 2025. This is where all the concentration of government is right now. And I have heard ministers, I've heard proponents of UPND, I've heard all sorts of supporters speaking about this bill to convince the Zambian people that this is a good bill. But you see, how much resources have been wasted with a technical committee whose work has counted for nothing. Because tell me, the work of the technical committee, where has it gone? Nowhere. Because we went back to the assembly to go and deal with this same original bill. Next week on Monday, this is the bill which is coming to the floor of the House on second reading. The same old bill. So that technical committee has brought resources which should have gone into the economy, resources which should have gone to improving the social standing of the Zambian people. To what end? Politicking. You see, we may ignore all of these small things, but everybody. Let me tell you, my brother, if you are aspiring to contest elections as a UPND in Monza Central, or even Choma Central, or any constituency, or Lunte, when UPND does its adoptions and they don't pick you, that is it. You will not be a Binwa Mpundu. You will not be a Chondesaka. You have no way of contesting elections as an independent. You can't even cross to another political party. This is what UPND is doing in this particular bill. Now, is that a promotion of democracy? When you go to Article 8 of the Constitution, which talks about democracy, the development of democracy, is this bill going to enhance democracy? No, you are lying. But what about you, the PF member, who doesn't even have a party because the party has been disorganized by UPND? Where are you going to contest elections? If you are Brian Munduvire, let me tell you, when this bill goes through, you won't be able to contest elections. Even if you are a Chavinga, even if you are a given Lurinda, as long as you are a non-PF member, there's no way you contest elections, because this bill takes away the right for you to contest elections, because you have to resign from PF 2 months before nominations. And what this bill is doing, it is even adding the number of months that you have to get paid as a member of parliament. It will add, after we adjourn, or after the parliament dissolves, you continue getting paid. So you have an incentive to stay in your job, because you'll be kept longer on the payroll, but yet you won't be able to go to another party which has proper papers, or which is not disorganized by the incompetent UPND. So this thing is aimed at destroying democracy completely, taking away democracy completely. If you, the only way this democracy will survive is by ensuring that this bill does not go. Speak very specifically about one object. You see, this bill, object number A, is saying, revise the composition of the National Assembly to provide for the increase in the number of constituency-based seats from 156 to 211 to actualize the delimitation report by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. This is very important. Very, very important. What this bill is saying, that the UPND wants to actualize the delimitation report which has been supplied to them by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Now, I told you that UPND are liars. Just over this simple matter, UPND has been lying. One minister appeared on a debate, and he was asked, where is the delimitation report which you want to actualize by increasing the number of constituencies by 55? Where is the delimitation report? The minister said, no, we don't have the delimitation report. Go to ECZ. Go and see the ECZ chairperson. She's available for you. Now, the minister doesn't have this report, but yet this bill came from cabinet. The minister has not seen this report, but yet this bill came from cabinet. Cabinet is unaware about this delimitation report, according to that minister. But if you are the following day, the very following day, the Electoral Commission was appearing before this same select committee, which is considering the illegal bill. And they were asked by one good honorable member, when are you going to provide a list or a report which shows the constituencies that are due for delimitation? You should have seen the fidgeting from the chief executive officer. The man said, no, it's a 2019 report which was submitted to government, and we revised it, and then we resubmitted it. Listen to me, if you are basing on the 2019 report, we saw the 2019 report. It was brought to the government when we were in cabinet, and we know the number of constituencies which were due for delimitation. They were just 11. 11 only. Where has the 44 come from? Where? And if it is true that you revised the report, how do you revise a delimitation report without going to the ground? Who gave you the names of those constituencies? How did you draw up the maps? How did you verify those maps? What type of thinking is this? What type of government is this? Which can't, even on a simple matter, you can't be truthful. This is way over the top. UPND, you need to change. UPND, you need to transform yourselves. For me, I always recommend UPND change. This is how far you have gone into cheating. Produce the report which makes a recommendation that 55 constituencies are due for delimitation. You can't do that. Another minister, just yesterday, was answering to another one. Huh? He was asked, where is the report, delimitation report? But what did he do? This one now said, no, you have it all twisted, it's wrong. What we do is first you secure the number from the constitution. After you secure the number, then you take to ECZ and you say, now find the constituencies. What type of thinking is this? What type of thinking is this? This is how much UPND is prepared to lie in order to pass an illegal bill. I want to declare that I will not participate in the deliberation of this illegal bill at any point whatsoever. I had thought about making a submission to the committee. I withdrew my submission, and I will not be in the assembly when this illegal bill will be considered, because I don't want my name to go down as one of those names which even had that contemplation that there is a process going on. This process is really bad. It reflects the standards of UPND, which have really been the lowest in this country. So I want to assure the Zambian people that I will not participate, and I will not vote for Bill 7. I will stick with the people which people I think should be managed or governed a little better than what UPND is doing right now. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Gakwaya. Before I call upon Honorable Kampiango, I just wanted to mention something very important that Honorable Gakwaya pointed out. You see, due to poor performance by the UPND, they found themselves in a very difficult position. They've lost favor even in their strongholds. So UPND is trying to use this constitution-making process to resolve problems within the UPND. Honorable Gakwaya pointed to the issue of delimitation. So basically the UPND, as we all know, is in problems. It's in problems because internally youths have arisen and they would like to contest for elections in the upcoming elections, replacing the older members of parliament. Now, President Hakainde Hichilema has failed to handle internal challenges within the UPND. So he wants to use the constitution, he wants to use delimitation to resolve problems within the UPND. If the delimitation process was objective, the report would have been out there. They've been challenged to produce a report so that we assess and evaluate the rationale used to come up with 55 constituencies. He's unable to do that. They are basically going to these small constituencies within their strongholds where there's infighting between the younger prospecting MPs and the older ones. So President Hakainde Hichilema, you can't use this very important process to resolve problems in your party. We urge you to resolve problems in your party, not using this particular route. These 55 constituencies, the reason why it has remained a secret, as if it's a cult document, as one senior lawyer observed, is because there's no objectivity. You've gone to the extent of ensuring that once the adoptions have been done, none of the people who've been left out can stand as independents. You are bringing it in the constitution to make it difficult. It is so undemocratic. Zambians isuke nyamenso. President Hakainde Hichilema n'abakwata obwafya within his own political party. Imisepera na shima, shilefu okwimirira, shifumyepo ama MPs wabayikile kale. President Hakainde Hichilema n'abafira okuta resolve problem within the party. Numubalefu okubomfya olupapulo lwa kyalo okuleta ama constituencies mulaba mwenye obwafya. Elokabi kumwenso batino kuti balabantu balasha bakemina pa independent no kuwina balefu okuchinga ko completely control papo lwa kyalo. It's very, very unfortunate. President Hakainde Hichilema, constitution is a very important document. All laws of the nation flow from the constitution. It's the grand norm, so we can't reduce it to a level where you begin to resolve or solve problems in your party using this very important document. So we are here to expose you. We are here to expose Bill 7 for what it is. And this is exactly what the members of parliament are doing. At this juncture, I want to invite Honorable Kampiongo to also add his thoughts to this illegal bill, Bill 7.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mundubire, as a parliamentary coordinator, for this opportunity. I recognize my colleagues who are here and those that are joining. I will slightly veer off from the bill to just remind citizens on something that we should not forget about. We shall be celebrating Christmas this year for the first time without one of our gallant sons of this country, who we lost 6 months ago, who was not only our leader in the party, but also our 60th president, Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu. Yes, we could have been reflecting on his life as we celebrate Christmas in a dignified way, but we can't, because as I speak, this man still remains in the morgue, freezing. His family is stuck in the Republic of South Africa, mourning away from their home country. This I can only describe as failure of collective wisdom. And all of us must reflect on this failure of wisdom. So, as if that's not enough, his daughter, who opted to join politics, started as a councillor in one of the wards in Chawama constituency, and later became area member of parliament for the same constituency, Chawama constituency. Has had a seat declared vacant and constitutionally. And now here is where you can see the hypocrisy. If indeed this so-called Bill 7 is a genuine attempt to cut down on by-elections, one would ask whether indeed it's reasonable, sensible to have elections a few weeks before the general elections in Chawama constituency. Just because the honorable member of parliament there has been mourning her father who is yet to be buried. Ubuntu wile kwisa muno chalo. Ubuntu se wile kwino Christian which we are supposed to be. Wile. If we are saying let's cut down on by-elections, was that by-election in Chawama necessary? I would have liked to say more about that by-election if the matters were not in court. But where I come from, we say, Ichikwanka wachimwena kumampalanya. And so, if indeed it's a genuine desire for the nation to cut down on by-elections, this is where we're supposed to be demonstrating. My colleagues sitting with me, the three of them, actually the four of us, I know Honorable Mpankata is somewhere, and our 5 of our colleagues who are not here could have been sent away from parliament despite being voted for by our people, gone through petitions which were petitions by the UPND. Someone on one announcement wanted all of us to be kicked out of parliament, and by-elections would have been held. That's the attitude we need to deal with first and foremost before we even touch the constitution. It's the attitude of leadership. Some of the by-elections we have had have been unnecessary by-elections. We want to embrace the youths. How are you treating the youths who want to be in leadership? If one of the youths, 2 of the youths today are no longer in parliament for just expressing themselves, because youths want to express themselves. Honorable Mnia Zulu is behind the walls of prison. Honorable Mabonga is out of. Those are youths that are supposed to be examples of fellow youths in parliament. So, you cannot claim to say we are curing the issue of by-elections without changing the attitudes. What we are saying actually is entrenching by-elections. Because now you want to say, if a member elected by the people is either no more by nature, through death, or a party just differs with an honorable member, Honorable Kafaya, wants to speak his mind in Parliament, he would be kicked out. And the party can pick anyone, whether the people like that person or not, and impose that person on the constitution. What sort of democracy is that? What sort of representative democracy are we looking at? So first of all, we are, as we end the year, we appeal to our shepherds, genuine men and women of God, not those that are speaking from the stomach, because those that are speaking from the stomach are very difficult to follow. They can even attack their fellow men of God for a piece of silver and a cup of tea at State House. They will balalusa mano washima pepo wa mutule mwana no kurusa mano pale tonton kanisha mumana nama families wakwatande sura nshishi wa churches ngama families echingalenga kuti valatukana washima pepo vanavo vashima pepo wecharo chaisho kutira vantu avashika umulandu wa rupapulo usho rupapulo ngalo straight luwa indafe kwero kweno kuti waraita vandusa mukurumba yo valatukana vanavo. This kind of moral degradation in the country must be a worry, must be a source of worry to every Zambian. Tifure to apepela pokutila lesa limbina nchalo na chipinda minwa pantu techitwe muna kwa chichalo chinomo umuntu walikateka wachalo afwa ekwa ile kuchipatare kwa kutukire ngembutushi ataya kusuke ayafwa mwafiro kushika mpaka lelo mwakonka nyapuno kulamula ndapo munshire ya fungana lesa ni maliotola eko mfuma batila ichiringo olingira ko munobe na iwe cho bakakulingira ko ndela ndechipampu ifa ni pa munobe bana lungwa basende chisendo chamfa ya vanome babono lupo ndo abalungu na ifwe bonse fwe bakumene kuti balungu ichi chisendo twenda nacho chila bushiku mpaka tukababike panshi kanshilero mule chisente koko ya tutubombele pamo mwabana mwatontonkanya ko muri tompo yenu mumitwe yenu ukutira aba bantu tulefo kubombela nabo kupangana ngulupapulo na ngukuchileko vine mulefo kuchitefya kuli efe mulefo apantu kuteko kulawama twalishwa authority for iwama ngaingira fe mumutwe na abantu efo balanda tafifu ikalimoli pantamula umfefu abantu balanda nga mwalisambira pali chacha chitikire pali bills 10 neri HW 7 ili ngatarifikire kono lero uchumbu mushororwa bali kwa testa mailo na lela ndamunga ndama fundo kutira nomba twalabwelela ku bantu batutumenchitwe ube niwe kateka ube niwe MP ube niwe kansela twalabwelela nomba kubene bambaka barabene bachuliro kwa kula malaiti barabene buchushi kwa kula kulipira ndalama pamata mwaka nshito abadilya tumona bashima famu bafika kuchimishimishi kilishimashi ukwa kula kufola mataba kuma buteko ya kunu moku elo chachitika po mwaka wakwambira po ni uno bashima famu bachula mfula ya shupa lesa pale mfula ya lokabalima ukuti bafole fiefe bali pafya bulimu vyabo yaba ya kushipa na we minister wa perwa maka akoresha pale kushimuli ukalali ama bwenge pachimishimishi n'abana bobe bashima famu balechula muri bantu bamusango cyane mukayo no uyu mwako kuti atwaisa mutupera amavoti tukonkanyepo ekwenyu yakwise ikyalo kirina mafia ayakala mbo tufire okulolesha po twamba okulayira ndaffe bakupera enkito fwe bakima ku t-shirt. How? Abayikibalirwa ndokutala abasambirira abaturolesha bakumibwa esimu patala balira okututwanako okuwombya ule. We have volunteered long enough to help our fellow citizens, and government, you don't care about us. And you can have a leader telling them that, no, we didn't invite you to work, to volunteer. What sort of people are we? But yet we are very quick to give ourselves jobs. More than 100 MPs. Yes. Your children are crying. You know how it takes to, how costly it is to produce one doctor. Just one. And yet these young men and women have volunteered to help and say, when the government gives an opportunity for us to be employed, we shall wait and continue saving the lives of our fellow citizens. Today they've become foolish. But we can focus on wrong priorities. On wrong things, money can be found. My colleagues have lamented on the technical committee. And I want to say this here, that those of you who may think we are just politicking about this Bill 7, its legality, we could have been telling you a different story today if indeed the president who realized that that Bill 7 was unconstitutional, and he made the wise decision to appoint a technical committee to go and gather views. We could have had problems with the composition of the technical committee, but I'll tell you this, me and my colleagues seated here, we would have been telling the Zambians a different story today if indeed that report that came from the technical committee and the draft bill that they handed over to the president is what ended up at Parliament, because that would have given a semblance of legitimacy to the process. We could have been saying a different story here, and I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues. We could have said, they've listened to us, they've listened to the people, and they've listened to the courts. Let's give them a benefit of doubt and see what the draft bill which has come from the technical committee is containing. With a report from the Electoral Commission of Zambia indicating the reviewed boundaries and constituencies that were earmarked for delimitation, it would have been a simple and straightforward matter. You didn't even need to be calling our members in the night and meeting them in dark corners and giving them handouts. It would have been the same way we handled the 2016 Constitution. And witnesses are there. I've always spoken about Honorable Mutati. I've spoken about Honorable Ruben Mutoropiri. He may be a failing Minister of Agriculture, but he was one of those leaders that worked tirelessly to see the 2016 Constitution enacted. So, this desperation we are seeing must worry Zambians. We are not unreasonable as members of parliament. We could have gone to our party and we had our position very well known insofar as this constitutional making process is concerned. We could have sat with our leaders and we could have looked at matters differently. But it's not to be. Man has been spent, man has been wasted, a report generated by the technical committee, and a draft bill. Now, how can a draft bill fit into another bill? So even an attempt to try and get the technical committee to appear before the select committee at Parliament has not yielded anything. How many witnesses have appeared? Which witness was sent around the country to go and... The technical committee has just been reduced to be a mere witness at a select committee. It has never happened in this nation. Never. And there's no procedure whatsoever that provides for what has happened. So Zambians must be demanding answers to find out why the money was wasted to constitute that technical committee in the first place. And what will happen to those 2 documents that were handed over to the president? These Zambians must be asking. I was cautioning my fellow honorable colleagues yesterday in Parliament. Like they say in one of the languages, Chawana Munzako Chapita, Mawa Chipai. We who were former ministers in the cabinet of Dr. Edgar Chagwanongo, who stayed in office for 3 months prior to 2016 general elections, after the new constitution of 2016 was enacted, were on a belief that the constitution was correctly interpreted. Years down the line, some stakeholders in the nation, including UPND, through their Secretary General then, went to the Constitutional Court and petitioned the Constitutional Court, alleging that we who stayed in the office stayed illegally. And the Constitutional Court adjudicated on the matter and found us wanting. We were not happy with the judgment, because at that point some of our colleagues had already left public office and had ceased to be members of Parliament. And like some of us who still continued because we were re-elected. When that judgment was pronounced, we had being in office with all the authority. If we behaved like our colleagues are doing today, we could have, I can't imagine what would have happened to us after we left office. Fueba aliwa cholowa uteko na warungu uteko. Twaikere shitatu mu uteko pantu twamona kuti olupapulo efirwala lwatantikwe. Baisire twalo mulandu uteko walolesha pamafunde balazi notubungwe tumbyo kubika kona wa UPND kuti baye bapitulukemo. Ikoti lasangira kuti afwe baikere mu uteko twali rufie nye tinachimwa tinalakwa twali mu uteko na makana tukwata atula fwaya kwenda bambi balikere bayo wakateka bebere ya kwa iteka ituli uteko bale tutusha fete tule mkule chitefi ifetwa kwete ntungurushia ishibe bwa mafunde fwa yatantikwa abalinga bakalubulula bamulandu balimbalo ya baidika chagalungu batile bane ikoti ndali apingula na ute mwana nguta ute memwe kuko mke fokoti ili pingule dipire nifie efe koti lilandile uyo mulandu na lelo bala wibukisha na munganda mafunde waliso uyo mwashi wakwire MPI isa mukuimbebele ushe mkwaya balipire ndalama nibanga pali baja basangire ku ikoti no mandanga chichiringo lingira ko munove echo wakakulingira abane sware mona kwati ifunde ili upingo shwe koti ubwatila ulopapulo lumwatwala ku parliament mlefo kwikatako tachirilo lele muyo so fino bali kuteko lero kuti chamuneka kwatina changuka pantu tapale ovengeka tovenga kanona kumona ndo kwa mukuteko lero ishita ikafika wingirira mu bambimi akalimbine myaka isano ikapwa lero baisa kukurulo kuti la fira mwale bombera ko fira milandu. So I continue to caution my colleagues in government today and in parliament that as long as that ruling from the court has not been vacated, it is still in force. And we must be worried about the interpretation. Because kuti maisa kutaura na ma constituency fyaisa havana fight. Nomba mwingiremo what that would be the cost to the nation. I've given a classic example. If we go to Tadapembere no Pembro, which I always work for PF, they are being good about penalty take over the Marine Fiend. The Pilen in Danam. No, if you had a money governance, what much is what take go. Limbuti have a contagion, or Kaisa or contagion. But as they say, so we must be worried that incumbency can get to our heads, and that's how even dictatorship begins. So lastly, it's a matter of choice for those that want to participate in these processes. But those of us who have gone through some of these issues, they say once bitten, twice shy. Once bitten, twice shy. Tetuwekeshepo echo echakuchitikirepo kairi wa mukuwekesha pona weswa ndepango muna. So we are going to stand with the people, and like I've always said, those of us who are respective to our shepherds of the church, we shall also respect their guidance, and that we shall do the right thing in line with what the people want. But the people of Zambia must not be so worried. Their time to speak is very near. We are just a few months away. Like where I come from, Walanda, I told Ichipukwa Pangwa Mabo Mikwibili. Pantunga Wakula said, for why show California. The two workers are Pangwa Makabi. As they say, no, we share a payway. It was shared up on Kumu. Kabiri to work at a poet. There's only a full stamp was on a stone twice in interpretation. The Richard Sang we can go more and watch Pua. Put a money tumful. No manage watching much as some por importo. Panda. Chabutukanayo. Apature people have looked like they are the weakest. But their strength is coming in August. Baranda chicharo chawonse. Kairi charo mukungu tatisari waumo. Twalina bashukuru bakaunda. Twaleti mankangala munishifukatilwa. Mumuloleza panshi kaunda. Lero abantu bashitira shukuru uno mukuro kuya. So tulina wa number 7. No one number 8 Minyakengi. So to the Zambian people, batila uchenjeshi wankoko kungwa tasakamana. Washima famu mweba lerila uchenjeshi wankoko kungwa tasakamana. Mwalepe mbero mufundo 10 nembuto kulundapo. Lero unomba mufiro kufuala nenda na mpafimo mwadi mwebe. It's a sad story. It's so sad. Lero lesaka palefe mukasalike ichimishimishi mukasalike chefie. Pantuna tuishiba muri awa kalipwa. Okutila tetumuse fyo kwa bulo kutila omuntu na musongira kangwe eko mwawombera. Na bamboya besuko uchipata Rwangeni Petauke Katete. We feel you, our farmers, and all the farmers across the country. We feel for you and we sympathize with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kamupiongo. Just a quick comment. I think Honorable Kamupiongo came out very strongly on the issue of by-elections. We must be very clear that the past 4 years, we've had a number of by-elections. When you interrogate further, you discover that these by-elections were actually initiated by the UPND. The by-elections at councillor level, the by-elections at parliamentary level were actually initiated by the UPND. So the call by Honorable Kamupiongo that instead of giving you 7 as an excuse to cure by-elections, the UPND should change their ways. The UPND were initiating by-elections at councillor level by enticing councillors to join the executive as teachers, nurses, and so on. And these were in cases where we have had volunteers volunteering for even over 3 years. The volunteers are not given an opportunity to get employed. Instead, they entice a councillor to create a by-election. So the Zambian people, please know this. Ama by-elections twale pitamu. By UPND, because of their recklessness, went out to create and initiate by-elections. You find that there are volunteers everywhere in the country, in the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and in government generally. So when there were vacancies, instead of considering volunteers, the UPND went to entice councillors to resign. So they have no moral right to actually talk about doing our by-elections. If you compare the number of by-elections that we've had in this period compared to by-elections in the same period and the results for these by-elections, you discover that there was total responsibility. The other point is on CDF. The distribution of CDF is not in the Constitution. The distribution of CDF is not in the Constitution. If at all government wanted to increase CDF allocation to constituencies that are vast, they can do that without amending the Constitution. We've got countries that came and copied CDF from us, like Kenya. They've come up with a formula on how to distribute CDF. They've come up with a formula based on demographics and other parameters. So we love CDF. There's nothing in the Constitution that stops government from increasing CDF based on the size of constituencies. I'll give you an example. For instance, it's 70 kilometers on one side and 100 kilometers on the other. So it will basically swallow all the constituencies in Lusaka. But the population is small. The population is small. So there's no justification to increase or indeed amend the Constitution so as to provide for how this CDF will be distributed. Or indeed be forced to do delimitation based on 70 kilometers by 100. To acquire 100 kilometers on one side and 70 on the other side. Kalimi in Malole, has got 300 kilometers within the constituency. Fuwe, on the other hand, has maybe 3 areas. Fuwe, Mulenga, Francis. Kuriama swamps, Kuriama mine, and Kuri mainland. So focus here, CDF, is not always based on the size, the geographical size of the constituency. So Mwilabe, Kutifia, Kulisha, so no. If government was serious with development, they could have taken development even using mainstream funding from government, not only relying on CDF. So Mwikabepwa, when they're debating, CDF should not be the excuse for delimitation, because CDF can be increased. Government can still fund constituencies that are geographically big in size using other means from government, not necessarily CDF. So Kanshi, I thought this was very, very important. And secondly, even when they argue that you know, the Constitution talks about the review of boundaries. Review does not mean increase. You can review and maintain the same number. You can review and reduce the same number. So when government is reviewing these constituencies, they take into account movements of people in and out of these areas. Sometimes because of climate change and certain changes within the constituency, people would move to one side and maybe other sides are left vacant. So people should not be fooled into believing that review necessarily means increasing. So this is very, very important. We, for instance, we have certain constituencies like Momba. Momba has only got 3 wards, but it gets the same CDF as Fugemulenga in Chilubi, 22, with 22 wards. 24. Yes. So Kasempa also gets the same CDF as Momba constituency with 3 wards. So there has to be a formula based on demographics, a formula that takes into account the size, so we can cure the challenges to do with CDF just with the formula, away from amending the Constitution. So the motivation to amend the Constitution using the CDF argument must collapse now. Don't allow anyone to come on the floor of the House, Yomkwai, Kulisha, and so on and so forth. Look at Mandevu. Mandevu maybe has 1 million people, okay? And Mandevu as a constituency should have 200,000 voters. It still gets the same CDF as Momba with 3 wards. So what are you going to do with Mandevu? You are going to cut it into how many? Into how many constituencies? So government has to be sincere. Government has got to come out in the open and talk to the Zambian sincerity. So the challenge we have, because even the constitutional amendment clauses were generated by themselves. They were generated by themselves. They didn't listen to the people. Had they gone down to hear what the people have got to say, they were going to come up with meaningful proposed amendments, not what they're feeding us with. So please, President Hakainde Hichilema, you can't continue hiding in CDF and CDF distribution. We know that CDF is not the main source of funding to these constituencies. Because if, for instance, I was calculated the other time, the UPND government has distributed or has approved budgets up to 900 billion in the past 4 years. But only 19 billion goes towards CDF. Why should we base constitutional amendments on 19 billion? Why should we even think about this 19 billion to be the reason why we are bringing about this delimitation? 900 billion, only 20 billion is going towards CDF. 880 billion, we don't even know where it goes. Why can't they take development to these areas using 800 billion? They're focused on the 19 billion. So that excuse must fall. I just thought, Honorable Kampiago, that we must bring out, the idea is to call out the MPND for what they are. They will come to the floor of the House and begin to tell the Zambian people stories about why the Constitution must be amended. As Honorable Kafoya already observed, we have colleagues in government today who are not in the habit of telling the truth. They don't like telling the truth. You listen to their ministers, come for interviews, come for debates. They just can't tell the truth. Even when we can read the judgment from the Concord that invalidated Bill 7, a minister will still want to argue to say, no, this particular bill is okay. The process was wrong, but the bill is okay. We are saying to you that that is a fruit from a poisonous tree. You can't maintain it. It has no legs to stand on. So our call to the UPND, for once, learn to start telling the truth. Zambians are simply tired of your habits of not telling the truth. Why can't you tell the truth for once? It's very, it's a source of concern, honorable members of parliament. Why can't the government officials just tell the truth? This is a bad bill. This bill was condemned by the Concord. This bill is now void. It's a nullity. It doesn't exist at law. So even as we contribute, we want to enlighten the Zambian people to know that even as the bill is before parliament, it's actually void. It's now void. It is a nullity. It's non-existent at law. At this point, I would like to invite the Honorable Kampampi Kawaso, Member of Parliament for Mansabombwe, to just share his thoughts about this illegal.
Thank you very much. Let me start by acknowledging the protocols which have already been established. To start with, it's very difficult even to speak to this document in the first place because this document was called to be unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court. First and foremost, Zambians, let us look at what is happening in this country. I don't think amending the constitution is the priority which Zambians are looking for. First of all, we want to expand the number of parliament when already we are facing so many challenges even at parliament. If you look at way back where committees used to travel year in, year out, those things are not happening because of lack of resources. Yet we want to expand the numbers of members of parliament to 211. This is uncalled for. Zambians, what are looking for now is the government which is going to fix the economy, not the government which wants to expand on the already overcrowded expenditure of government. First of all, for the government to have appointed the technical committee to go around, what prompted them to appoint that technical committee? It's straightforward. It's because of the ruling which came out of court, where the court ruled that there was no wider consultation on the process which came up with the bill number 7. They went ahead, appointed this technical committee, and to their surprise, this same technical committee came out with a report and a bill, a new bill altogether, which I think after seeing that this technical committee has come up with another bill, government decided to bring up the bill 7, which the Concord had ruled to be unconstitutional. So, to my fellow Zambians, let us try to analyze these two issues critically. Then we will see our government is not sincere with what they are doing. At the moment, the Zambian people are looking for reducing the cost of living. The Zambian people are looking at how are they going to have fuel at lower prices? How are they going to afford the basic essential commodities? Not the bill which was condemned by the Constitutional Court. So to my fellow Zambians, all I can urge you is that as members of the Patriotic Front, we are behind you, we are going to rally behind you, and we are not going to be part of an illegality which the Concord has already ruled. This government is one government which we thought was going to stand by the rule of law. But if you see what has been prevailing, this government has not been following the rule of law. They basically just do anything to suit themselves. Let us not make laws which will going to suit us when we are in government at that particular moment. Let us make laws which will benefit all the Zambian people. Like the fellow presenters who have spoken to this bill, they've already mentioned the bad things about this bill. And again, I'll keep on saying it will be very difficult for me even to go into details of the content of this bill, because in the first place, this bill itself, it has been ruled to be unconstitutional. So let us not dwell on the content of this bill when we have already been told to say the process which made this bill to come up is unconstitutional. So my fellow Zambians and my fellow members of parliament out there, let us stand with the people of Zambia. Let us protect Mother Zambia. We've only got one Zambia, and this is the Zambia we will leave for our children. There won't be any Zambia which our children will look up to when we were to vote for this bill. Government have come, government have gone. Zambians, let us open our eyes and see what exactly this government is trying to do. We are basically trying to put more power in one person. How can a president, just one person, appoint more than 30 members of parliament to parliament? Who are these people going to be representing? They will basically be representing the president. They will have the interest of the president first than the Zambian people. So, to this, I think, let us not even agree and support these amendments to these bills. If this bill was straightforward and this bill was okay, why are we seeing brown envelope throwing out the brown envelope moving around at Parliament Motel and the premises of Parliament itself? It's a clear message to the Zambian people to say there must be something wrong then to this to this bill. If the bill was straightforward, why are you then paying the people to vote for this bill? Which I don't think is the right thing. And just to conclude, most of the things have already been spoken to the fellow speakers who spoke earlier than me. This bill is not good for the Zambian people. This bill doesn't mean well to the Zambian people. And it's high time we started respecting our courts. It's high time we started respecting the judgments which come out of court. And one other thing, if they are saying there are no issues with this bill, why have they gone to court to appeal against the ruling which was passed against this bill? That tells you to say what we are doing is basically unconstitutional. So it's high time we focus on things which will make the Zambian people move out of the poverty which they are going through at this particular moment. The Zambian people want the government which will sort out the issue of load shedding. Zambian people want the government which will sort out which will lower the cost of fuel. Zambian people want the government which will lower the cost of living for the Zambian people in terms of mini meal and other essential commodities. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Fabiana can proceed to speak to.
Thank you so much, and you were right on the protocols already established. When I came to Parliament in 2021, I sought to protect, defend, and preserve the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. And now it is such a time that has come for me to group myself with the like-minded members of Parliament, seniors, and all those that stand on the side of the people during this period that the UPND wants to defile and rape our Republican Constitution. That must be stopped within the legal means and within everything that we can do as members of Parliament. I want to assure the Zambian people and the people of Mpika that sent me to Parliament that I'm not here to represent myself, but I'm here to represent your interests. I'm here to only support that which you also support. I'm here to only do what you, the people, deem very right. As such, I will not participate in the illegal constitution making process which will be taking place on Monday next week. The church has spoken, the Law Association of Zambia has spoken, all the stakeholders of the Republic of Zambia have spoken. Who am I as a single member of parliament to go and support Bill 7 and say, no, I'm supporting Bill 7 because there is delimitation. No, I'm supporting Bill 7 because Mpika will be delimitated. I mean, who would risk eating a fruit just laced with poison just because it's sweet? Only a fool can do that. And only a mad person can do that. That I shall not do. I will not give a constitution, a bad constitution, to the Republic of Zambia. This constitution as it stands, this proposed bill as it stands, intends to give majority seats to a sitting president who, and if that is done, we risk this president to come back again after the 2026 general elections and demand to amend the constitution to remove the term limit. That we shall not do. There is an example in the Congo Brazzaville. President Denis Sassou Nguesso was democratically elected. And when he was democratically elected, he decided to change the constitution to have more members of parliament to his side. And when that happened, the next thing that followed, he removed the presidential term limit. He also removed the presidential age limit to make himself run for president as many times as he could. We can't do that as a country here in Zambia. The parliament exists to check the powers of the executive. And if now parliament is given to the executive, which institution will check the powers of the executive on behalf of the Zambian people? This constitution just wants, bill just wants to save the interests of the UPND government. I have sat here whilst my colleagues were speaking. I was meditating, asking God, why at this particular time have you given us such a government? We are a Christian nation, for God's sake. And tulapepa vya wino kupepa kulile sakabumba mkuru bati mwele samule tusungile chalo chasu. Lelo chile mweneke chanko sera inengo muntu nso kutontonkani utunatukwata ubuteko. Uwinga posa mano muku chinjo olupapulo. Panshite ya abantu bale chula kumula mini bale fa kumula tono kuchula. Abantu bale lale nsa. Ululu ishirolu abo abantu bale lalilo bowa. Ubuteko tia. Lolekeshe ni pafile chita ba UPND. Edo ibukishe ni ukutila. Ululu papulo nga lwapitile. Amaka yenu ni ishibachefu. Bantu muli ululu papulo muli no kufuayo okutila. Ba MP nga ba expelled. Aba suspended na ngwachita resign. Nangolesa kabumba mkulunga amusendafu. Ama political parties yakalesa la MP nga tomato basala batino kuchuye MP twamaleta. Nababula no kweba ati secretary to the cabinet who acts as the principal advisor to the president and the government. Balefwaya ale kwata for 5 years experience at permanent secretary level. Echo abantu bale ekishokutia bushe mumano yabo kuli umuntu obakweto kwebati akabe pali kiri ekifulo mbatakwani shefi kuli abale ikushefi antapali wa UPND na ngumo uwa yasokeri yeli ikusho bantu jonseri urupapulo rwabo rwayikala muri yineshita na secretary to the cabinet uya palya untu akwete 10 years experience at the permanent secretary level nishi balefa ilo kuchinja finish balefa afusutingu echa abantu bale ipisisho kutira limbi na bakwata umuntu mumutu wo balefa utyaka yepali chichifulo nomba tala kwanisha yimyaka bushechocho tunga chichinji shapo constitution umusango wakabachi umuntu umona alefa yechichifulo. That is the mediocrity of the highest order, and it must not be supported by anyone who is very sane. The UPND government has gone wrong, and it's high time that we demanded to tame its wrongness. We can't continue on this trajectory. The people have spoken to say, don't amend the constitution. It's not an emergency. Neither is it very urgent for you to amend the constitution. They've totally refused to listen to the people. The same people who elected them. So today, if they've failed to listen to the people, how will they listen tomorrow if they attempt to amend the constitution again and remove the presidential limit? Who will they listen to? They will never listen to anyone. Just like they have refused to listen now, they can, even in the future, refuse to listen and do anything they can to our constitution. I want to appeal to my fellow members of parliament. The constituents that you are holding on now is not yours. It belongs to the people. The same people who have said no to Bill 7. Who are you to stand there and say, yes, I'm supporting Bill 7 because I want my constituents to be delimited? It is not your constituents. Listen to what the people have said. The people that sent you to parliament, listen to what they have said. Bushemwe bantu nangukubulwa mani. Kuti wayasapota olupapulo lwa musango. Olupapulo olwo lupeerwa ku bantu abakupeera n'ekifulo kya MP nangu wali bapata abekala kyalo tekyukite kya musango efe. Ninshifye niwe kashiika bomi. Ba UPND muri buteeko obwa bakashiika bomi. Eryo tamwakwata n'oluse kubalanda. Amukwata ku luse kubalanda tekimwime n'opo mwekero kuti mupangira abekala kyalo olupapulo lwa musango efe. Ala n'abalwirira obuntungwa bwakyalo kyesuko nsoko balala emibiri kyabo kirekunkuluka mu manda pantakwabo obutungulushi obwa musango efe. There's never been a time that any one of us would expect our country to go through what is going through at the hands of the UPND government. Kuri mwebalandi ba MP ndewekeshapo tien tukutike kufya bekala kyalo balela inshita tulipo kainishite yakubala n'okupeperapo okulomba amaka kulire sakabumba mukulu kwe bachenga kutungulula ponsopoli wituntumba okukitefya kumutu wobe kitefyo abekala kyalo balefwayo pepa kulire sakabumba mukulu kutya kutungulule umulimo tukalabomba pamande umulimo ukalabombeko pamande mulimo wabekala kyalo omuntu uli wonso wate mwabekala kyalo tetyaya suminisho kuti ululupapulo ulo na constitutional court yala ndokutira talwaya mbokulingana nefunde lwingapita n'okuperwa kubekala kyalo unless omuntu wayitemwa sana okukiya okutemwa abekala kyalo. Inenga mwana kapyanga member of parliament uwa abekala kyalo bapeere omulimo wabu member of parliament okumufunya mu bulanda olulupapulo nalirukana ero nshakasangweko noko bakala abombera bali olulupapulo fijanara piro kwe batinkala imini no washipa no kuchita protect and defend the constitution chire piribula ishifuire na chita participate pantu na chirachine nala pirepo bali songa kulya abakesa po bakesa abula ya mapepa no kuyafukulula bakatire kusheni bali basangirweko iliyo efya iliko fyale chitika na inewe ina iya ine nala pirepo bakaya isenda bakacheki kushena pakupanga olupapulo na lisango wako ngana sango ati na lisango wako kuti bankakirapo paku ya abule ekirapo kyanju kukana na chikonka. Amen. Mwebekala kyalo tumineni ba member of parliament wenu amafoni konsoko muri bule ni foni yambeni okutumira member of parliament wenu kutira witulekelesha we support olupapulo panduri wanse member of parliament wala support olupapulo ninshaka kulensa lubufete eyo ninshami posa mukanwa kankala nga kiri kyakwe bati ba UPND tabakweta okufuntungu muri olupapulo ninshi bakoserepo ninshi bominenga pamukonso wakamukolo eyo kinshi tunkire nkuli pantu batire omuswe mata wibutukira kamukuli kyatunke nkuli mwebekala kyalo mwebe na Zambia inshita ya pamande ukwamba mailolo tukaya mukusalika salikeni kulire sakabumba mukulu kabiri lombe yokutira ba MP wenu abapeera amakana amano ayafya kite kintu ekituntulu ne kintu kyakukita kirife kino kukana olupapulo lwabakashiika bomi olupapulo luko naula imitekerwe ya kyalo kyesu mwebekala kyalo kuti mwayipusha olupapulo lwakwata ebipande bibiri iki kipande balefu okukita amendi n'ekipandeko mwebekala kyalo mwapeerwa ensambu ishafe wekyalo obuteeka okufire bula emisunga ninshi basalirapo fye okulembulula ku kipande kyakubapeera efifulo bashe ekipande kyakumipele ensampo okutira mule pokelero omufundo wakwana okutira mule pokelero obyantanisho bwakwana okuti mule pokelero amasambiro yakwana okuti mule sambya mitifu patalesha kwana kyonse ekyo tabafita baleko okukitamendi bayamu kukitamendi okuti balepele fifulo babululu shabo abaana babo n'amakadazi babo nayimoko kunse muletota ba UPND abena Zambia tebakusenteka umfweni kubena Zambia fyo balelani abena Zambia balikana olupapula kupitira mu MPs babo balikana olupapula kupitira muri bashima pepo babo balikana olupapula kupitira mu stakeholders yabo umfweni kufyo abekala kyalo balelanda mwibule nifyo olupapula mulukite withdraw from parliament bakwe bati mwinga konkanyako ukubombako fimbi ili mule kitefi fya lupapulo ifyalo ifyaba serious nga mwaya ku Kenya bale pange nyanja kufuma ku Mombasa yenyanja ikalaenda 1 hour on a stretch of 400 kilometers ili mule kitefi fya mungu fya lupapulo ichalo cha Ethiopia na chipanga damu ya kupompa malaiti ukalapangwa malaiti 6550 megawatts imwe kuti mwaya ikalafyo kulapose nshitano rupia kufya lupapulo ili lupapulo balata mpopulisha abena Zambia finshi basekera mu abena Zambia mufifulo fya mwakwata I mean, kwa no waile kuchilimba samkula ndokitira mone nine nafuma kuno bali mpere chifulo cha bu minister so tungirire ni olupapulo kuchifulo chobe cha bu minister finshi bali yako abekala chaba apart from iwo kulya weka nabana bo ubule no olupapulo lwa bipange chuba pere eyo bali kupero bakubika pachambazo bakupero utungurushi ubule wabi ubakakire umwe kumona urubango bapero olupapulo lwa bipefe alabuli babini mo bakashika bobi ubutekeshi wa msangwefi kabiri ukubula abekala cyaro kubasenda muri yishamba senderemo tachiweno twala konkanya ko mailo kwamba lelo mailo na pamande peni ile ndi pali abo bakapingira house oko tukekana tulepepa ukatirolevo atera palu papulo waisa sango kweba tinwe makunkutu ukatirolevo atera palu papulo waisa sango kutule niwe chibulu pantuleza kabumba mkuru ala twasuka kuri ba munyine fwe bonse abale umfwa ndetira tumine ni ba member of parliament beno bebe ni ukutira be supporter ulupapulo nga mwalutungirira ninshi ichalo chesu icha Zambia mwaona ula natotera mkwai
kwa ina pakulengeresha kwena ndesubiro mwacha wandi umwena mpiko yutendana kwe propaganda na kwe mpaka asondwerera ngamukumashi pakulomba makakwa kabumba mukuru kuti dainga mone minimu ya pamande pali chimofo ikakumbeko lero namukusondwerera chinamona munyena anoyekera pa wachoro wakuteko walero lishapa fya maraiti na mafuta baona limo mabomba bali bacho wakuteko lya wakuteko imfifi ya maraiti ya isile shupa kumuna ndo wachila la chamfuna ya shupile kwa pipa nono kwena watu kushabawa kishishi benga kuna tota fantu leo murumendo lero lishapa maraiti ya chila kitote ifyale pera kwechalo amaraiti pansa itatu pali 3 hours utatu utotereko wafya bombeni umwacho andara ndo kutila bashima famu osuna watule chine iforo twale sunga bashima famu twashane fya kulya mu matala we left stocks of maize which was sold by Honorable Mtoropi bale chinifu ba farmer kanshi katwali ba farmer bebe nana bashika abano mbana bashika bashima famu ushikirira fye pantu efe bachusha bashima famu tapali ulinda sekera moyo ezo tulanda pali bashima famu sana watu limited ratio insala nyingi mwa tempuli wa hiyo ero bonse na ngutubona mabere mwa kwete fitunshi pa kutungombe kwa manao dia insala kapondo so if wale ponyensala wa UPNG mukana koza mana kuti bashima famu wale ponyafi insala muchalo That's our worry. The food security of this country will be compromised as we go into next year. Tuamfire baleti balamba kabisa cash for work, cash for work. Cash for work. When you should have been increasing the number of fiscal beneficiaries so that they increase production. On one hand, Bamtoro, you are saying you are looking forward to 10 million metric tons. Where is that 10 million metric tons going to come from if you are reducing the number from the current 1 million fish beneficiaries to about 600? Mulefu oku abantu bakalima lero tamulewa fish okutaba bakwate ifiwombero nefe balingiro konve pakulima. We have committed ourselves as people's representatives. One, to defend the Constitution, as we did swear in at the beginning of our tours of duty. Kanshituyawa ishtika ukutila twala pitirilo kumono kutilo lupapolo lwachalo ngafira twala ile filayo kwa mbebiri mutwaya mba twalikiza shani tuhalitungirira. Umwaicho wanda chanda bada shiri idikankale chinechi. Uteko government, the civil service is run by the engine called the Cabinet Office. And at the helm of that engine is the Secretary to the Cabinet. This is the senior most job in the civil service. Now you can imagine if someone to just become a head teacher of a school, a head teacher, before even an HOD, head of department, needs more than 5 years of experience to become an administrator. Others even stay for more than 20 years before they can be considered for such responsibilities. HOD same. And the government is structured in lower management, mid-management, up to upper management. You've got assistant directors before one becomes a director. You require competence apart from necessary qualification requisites. You need proper experience. It's not a minor undertaking to run government machinery. So to try and reduce running of government to an aspect of saying anyone can join government and within 5 years someone can be at the helm of government machinery is a joke. And I will apologize to the people. 2 people I'm going to call upon who are still alive. Mr. Leslie Mbula, former senior civil servant, who also occupied this office of Secretary to the Cabinet. And Dr. Simon Miti, former Secretary to the Cabinet and Private Secretary at State House. And I'm sure Mr. Kanganja, Dr. Kanganja is still with us. We call upon you to advise the head of state, the president. You are still alive and let the nation benefit from you. You know what it takes to run government machinery. Please advise wisely. Use your wisdom. Ndelomba wafyasha abawa chilipo aba. Aba bomba po emilimo yabu kalemba mkalamba wa buteko. Balezi Mbula, epo mchili, na ba Dr. Simon Miti. Abo ndiko shuwa sana. Eveni bakateka pandeni ko bakateka mano pali ichi. Tetubule fe muntu wanyingire buda busuku ewe tire sesange pop. Echo kuteko bule figo kombe bilimo ya ndoloka. Pantunga mwatimurolise, most of our competent civil servants today are sitting at home getting paid because they've been sidelined You can see, those of us who have been in government, those of us who have worked in government, you can see the lapses in functions of government. They are very clear for everyone to see. Now you want to even dilute the topmost job. How can you think like that? That's what, these are the proposals in this. But I'm calling upon these two distinguished former public servants, Dr. Simon Mead and Mr. Leslie Mbola, advised wisely on this one. And you should have been the authority to speak to this matter. Because everybody who has been speaking to this matter have been speaking from lack of knowledge. You know what it takes to run government machinery. You can't reduce it to that kind of pettiness. Twamulomba. Mona uleko filmi ubuteko na ifo tulefo kwisa busanga buno bwino. Pantu civil service engine, it must outlive the cycles of political leadership. We shall continue talking, and those who would want to find out clarifications from us, we are available as a public servants to respond to your questions, either by phone or any other means. We can only conclude by assuring our citizens that we shall stand with them in doing the right thing. To allow enda na mwe bantu bakwalesa nga byafina narangire kutilo lupapulo lufire lwokwata abantu kubika ponshi amapalo missionary site shani apala. That's a request I was making to the owner, the vice president, yesterday, and it's a request I continue to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As we come to the close of this particular interaction, I want to just state two points. What is true is that this is phase one of constitution amendment by the UPND. Controversial as this bill is, they are calling it non-contentious. They are saying we're bringing a bill with non-contentious clauses. So the observation made by the honorable members here, that the moment this bill goes through, they will now come back, garner their numbers in parliament, because the executive will be controlling parliament completely. So that's when they'll come up with what they're calling contentious. If this bill is non-contentious, because this is the most contested bill in the history of constitution making in Zambia, but to the UPND, that is non-contentious. So you can only imagine what will be contained in what they may term as a contentious one. So Zambia's bill won. This is phase one. It is phase one because they said we will deal with non-contentious clauses, meaning a time will come when, in their view, they'll be dealing with contentious clauses. And at that time, it will be full-time dictatorship. So please be warned. On the issue of the Executive Cabinet, those that have worked in the civil service actually understand why we have problems today. We have problems today because most of the civil servants with experience have been packed away. In the civil service, the assistant directors have got postgraduate experience of between 5 to 10 years. In fact, of over 10 years. The directors are those with experience of about 15 years. Now, how do you want to reduce the experience by the civil servant number 1 to 5 years when his juniors need 15 years to get to the position of director? So clearly, President Daka in each level, we don't play with constitution making like that. You don't start with an aim in mind, a friend in mind, and then you rush to Parliament to amend the constitution to accommodate friends to these senior positions. It's very shameful. Please abandon this route. You will not go to amend the constitution to accommodate a friend who is ill-qualified or a friend who is not qualified, and is not qualified because he has not served enough time in government. Please know that the civil service is structured. People end these positions on account of time that they serve. So Zambians, please resist these amendments. That is our appeal. We'll continue to speak to you tomorrow so that you remain aware of what is happening in your parliament. Thank you very much.